discussion went with them all night from Isha all the way until close to that, right? It's like tahajjud time. So Imam Ahmad, yeah, Imam Ahmad obviously is taqi, wari', loves Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, loves to get close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He gets up and he walks away from Imam Shafi'i and he goes to pray tahajjud. Imam Shafi'i turns to him and says, Ila aina ya Aba Abdullah, where are you going? Imam Ahmad, where are you going? And he goes, I'm going to pray salah. And he goes, وَمَاذَا كُنَّا فِيهِ, what were we in then if we weren't in salah? So whenever we're discussing going through the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, talking about fiqh, talking about hadith, talking about the seerah, whatever it is that is enlightening us with regards to our spirituality, our deen, connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, all of that is considered salah. Yeah? So some people can ask, Shaykh, I'd rather read Quran than sit in a dars, right? I'd rather stand in prayer than study and learn, right? But really all of this stuff is all one and the same thing. Yeah? Inshallah.
Like in the month of Ramadan, if we read itikaf, we still reading
Allah. No, it's good, I like it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وبعد. Alright, let's continue with some of the ayat that begin with Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. We are still in Ali-Imran and we're on verse number 156 now, inshallah. So this ayah, it goes as follows: Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu لا تكونوا كالذين كفروا وقالوا لإخوانهم إذا ضربوا في الأرض أو كانوا غزا لو كانوا عندنا ما ماتوا وما قتلوا ليجعل الله ذلك حسرة في قلوبهم والله يحيي ويميت والله بما تعملون بصير. تمام. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, "Oh, you have belief in their hearts, listen up. Don't be like those who have disbelieved. And they said to their brothers, if you travel in the land or you go out and fight, if you were with us, you would not die, nor would you be killed. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would make whatever they're saying and whatever they're believing hasratan fi qulubihim, an element of hasra. What's hasra? Have you got the translation there? Sadness, despair, sorrow, yeah, all of those words. In their own hearts. Wallahu yuhyi wa yumit. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gives life and death. Wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all aware of what you do. He is the all-seer of what you do. This verse is revealed amongst verses that are talking about battle, right? And in particular the battle of Uhud, because we said that yesterday, right? We said that Ali-Imran is all about the battle of Uhud. So here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling the believers, don't be like the disbelievers. In what way? Not just in the iman way and not just in the akhlaq way and so on and so forth. Don't be like those who look at your brothers who go out in the land or they go out and fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that it is somehow them doing this that causes them to die. Right? And that had they stayed with you in the comfort of their own homes, in the safety of their cities and so on and so forth, death would not come to them. Right? That's how the kuffar would believe. Or this is what the kuffar would say. It's almost as if they are putting themselves up against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying that, look, we are the ones who are in control of life and death. If you are with us, no harm would ever befall you. Right? If you come to our countries and if you come to our societies and if you adopt our ways of life and so on and so forth, all of the good things in the world would open up to you. Right? That's what they're trying to say. And no harm would ever come to you. Right? That's what they're inadvertently saying, right? And they have, subhanAllah, they've almost as if they have specified or narrowed down the causes of death to two things. You go out for any reason whatsoever, for trade, for anything fi sabilillah, you go out, that's going to be the cause of your death. Right? And some people have this understanding in this country as well, right? Some non-Muslims. When you say like, oh, I'm from Pakistan, they're like, ooh. Right? Or you say, I'm from Afghanistan, they're like, oh, alhamdulillah, you're here now. It's like, dude, I was fine when I was out there. What's wrong with you? My entire family's out there right now. What the hell? There's nothing wrong. Right? Or they'll say like, oh, I'm from Saudi. It's like, oh, like if a woman says it, right? It's like, oh, it's good that you're here, right? At least you have some liberties and freedoms. Right? Now there's nadara dunya, right? As if they have all of the fada'il in the world, it's if they have all of the perfections of humankind and everybody else is struggling in the world, right? That's the viewpoint. So they narrow it down to whatever they have is right and whatever anybody else has cannot be correct. But here the kuffar, what they've done is they have narrowed down the causes of death to going out in the land for whatever reason and fighting in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the cause of, you do this, even if you're going to die or not going to die, even if you survive, you're going to die, right? Even if it's for the right thing, for the haqq, right? You're standing up for civil liberties or whatever, you're standing up for the truth, you're standing up to fight against oppression, etc., etc., etc. Even then, no, don't do that, because doing this is going to be the cause of your death. Jama'at al-Khair, is anybody in charge of when they die and when they don't die? Does anybody decide how they die and what happens to them when they die and so on and so forth? No one, that's not in the charge of anybody, right? No one has control over that whatsoever. So it's almost as they are pitting themselves up against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and something else as well, which is the rububiyyah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether they decide who lives and who dies, right? And this is all ghurur. This is all deception, right? They don't decide who wins wars. They don't decide who survives and who doesn't survive. They don't decide. It's like Nimrod, right? قال أنا أحيي وأميت. I'm the one who decides who lives and dies. Right? When Ibrahim alayhi salam comes to him and he brings that guy and he kills him and he says, look, I am also a god because I have the ability to give life and give death. So he brought one person, he killed him, and he brought another person and he pardoned him, and he goes, look, I've given life to this person and I've killed this person. So what's different to your belief in a god and your belief in me as being a god besides Allah? Tamam? قل لو كنتم في بيوتكم لبرز الذين كتب عليهم القتل إلى مضاجعهم. Right? Like, even if you were in your own homes, those that are written for death, like death is written for them, it's going to come to them. وَلَوْ كُنْتُمْ فِي بُرُوجٍ مُشَيَّدَةٍ. Even if you were in castles that were made of impenetrable stone that nobody can get past, no enemy can ever traverse within that fortress, death is still going to come to you within that. So what are you afraid of? It's not death that you are telling these people, I can save you from. No. What you're doing is, this way of life that you're following, this is what you're trying to save them from, or not save them from. This is what you're trying to take them away from. Does that make sense? So they are almost deceiving the followers of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sahaba ridwanullahi alayhim, and those who come after them as well, by saying that, look, if you follow the path of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it's going to lead to your destruction. But if you follow us, we will save you from death. And there is not a human being on this earth that doesn't fear death, that's not afraid of death when it comes. Either because they're just not ready for it, and they're not ready to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with all the sins that they've committed, or they know what's waiting for them. Do you know what I mean? Or they're just enjoying this world too much and they just want to stick around here, right? So لا تكونوا كالذين كفروا وقالوا لإخوانهم إذا ضربوا في الأرض أو كانوا غزا لو كانوا عندنا ما ماتوا وما قتلوا. Don't say to your brothers in Islam, don't go off in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't go and do that because you're going to die. Don't be weak as to hold on to this dunya so much that will be your response to them when they go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. لِيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ ذَلِكَ حَسْرَةً فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. Why is that a despair for them? Why is that like a moment of sadness for them, for the kuffar? Why has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that belief a moment of sadness? We've said that already. Because death is something inevitable. It's going to happen. So when they do die in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are honored and they are revered. And there's millions and millions of people making dua for them, making dua for their victory, making dua for their martyrdom, making dua for them for Jannah and so on and so forth, right? That they are raised with the prophets and the messengers and so on and so forth in the highest parts of Jannah, right? This is how, like, what's going to, the legacy that they're going to leave behind. And they're going to be an inspiration for others to follow and so on and so forth. They hate that stuff. They hate it down to their core. They can't stand it, right? So they want to crawl away from that. So that is the despair that they have. So when they see that happening, it's like, no, we will give you life. Don't worry. We'll help you survive, and you'll live an honorable life, a life full of riches and loneliness and despair and depression and anxiety. This is the life that we're promising you. Don't worry. Come to us. You won't die though. And if you do, you'll die like when you're like 70, 80, right, in your beds. Khalid bin Walid. Allahu Akbar. Khalid bin Walid. Right? He said, قاتلت في نيف ومئة من الحرب. I have fought in over 100 battles or more, right? وليس في بدني مكان إلا وله ضربة بالسيف أو طعنة بالرمح. that there isn't a part of my body except that there is a cut as a result of a sword or a stab as a result of a spear. There's not a part of my body that isn't like that, right? But here I am, dying on my own bed. Yeah? Khalid bin Walid fought all these battles, didn't die on the battlefield, didn't die as a shaheed, died on his bed, at home, right? And so he warned all of those cowards that come after him, that it's not about you go to battle and you're destined to die. No, you fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're destined to die. No, that's not what's going. That's not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed just because you go to battle. Although the probability goes up, like shoots up by like 200%, but that's not a guarantee. Khalid bin Walid is the prime example of that. Umar radiallahu anhu, the absolute opposite. You know how, subhanallah, man, when he became the Khalifa, how disappointed he was that he wasn't going to be able to be any part of any katiba after that. He's not going to be any part of any war battalion. He's not going to be going into Persia or Rome or anything like that to fight in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He was so disappointed that was the case. That was his case, right? And what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward him with? Huh? He died a martyr. He got killed by Abu Lu'lu al-Majusi, right? And he was a non-Muslim. And he got killed fi sabilillah. And he got killed praying Fajr, right? Allahu Akbar. What an amazing like time of events.
He made dua because of dua made him shaheed.
Yes, and he wanted it. But Khalid bin Walid also wanted it as well. Khali Barak. Okay. لِيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ ذَلِكَ حَسْرَةً فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. So they are in despair because the end result, the legacy, is something that is great. وَاللَّهُ يُحْيِي وَيُمِيتُ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah reinforces that it's Allah that gives life and gives death. It's not any of these guys. Nobody who promises you a life of luxury is going to be able to promise you a life that is continuous. وَاللَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all knower of what you, or all seer of what you do. Tamam. That's fairly obvious. The next ayah is the last ayah of Surah Ali-Imran, ayah number 200. Is it? Yes, it is. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اصْبِرُوا وَصَابِرُوا وَرَابِطُوا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. I remember, like this surah is predominantly speaking about the Battle of Uhud, although it speaks about other things as well, right? It speaks about like the sort of the kuffar and what they do, and then it ends with like the du'as of the believers. ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار ربنا إنك من تدخل النار فقد أخزيته وما للظالمين من أنصار ربنا إننا سمعنا مناديا ينادي للإيمان أن آمنوا بربكم فآمنا, and so on and so forth. All these ad'iyah that the believers are saying, right? And then it ends off with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responding to those du'as, فاستجاب لهم ربهم أني لا أضيع عمل عامل منكم من ذكر أو أنثى, that no good action of any man or woman would ever go unrewarded. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to hold everybody to account with the good and the bad. Etc. And he goes on, and then this is the last ayah. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اصْبِرُوا وَصَابِرُوا وَرَابِطُوا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. And this is like a summary of the entire surah. And in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls the believers, and He gives them 4 commands to do. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اصْبِرُوا 1. صَابِرُوا 2. وَرَابِطُوا 3. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ 4. 4 things.
This area applies to the people of Gaza today.
Allahu Akbar.
Absolutely.
It applies to the people of Gaza min babi awla, but all of us as well.
This applies
Yeah.
to Gaza.
Yeah, min babi awla, but all of us. I'll show you how. Isbiru. What is isbiru? Huh? Patience, yeah? Okay, commanding us with patience. What are we supposed to be patient with?
Everything or anything.
The trial and tribulation.
Trials and tribulations. Anything and everything. Yeah, patience with anything and everything. So trials and tribulations and? Steadfastness, okay. And the ni'am of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tries you and tests you with things that you don't like. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also gives you things that you love and covet and always wanted in this world. You have to be patient with both. How are you patient with, it's an easy one. How are you patient with the adversities and the difficulties? Sabr, yeah, but this is patience.
By
Accepting that this is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not being disappointed, disheartened with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has apportioned with you, and staying steadfast upon the Sirat al-Mustaqim, not becoming weakened, right? وَلَا تَهِنُوا وَلَا تَحْزَنُوا. Okay, but being patient with regards to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed you with, how do you do that? Shukr, Allahu Akbar, amazing. Look at you guys, 1 point. Right, so shukr. Right? You have to be thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, grateful. صَرْفُ جَمِيعَ مَا عَنْأَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكَ إِلَى مَا خُلِقَ لِأَجْلِهِ. So directing all the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you to that which they were created for in the first place. Yeah? All that sort of stuff. So sabr. Now when you do sabr, you do sabr for things that you want to do, but you know you're not supposed to do, whether good or bad, right? Whether in adversity or in bliss. You want to get angry, you want to just flip out, you want to just turn the tables and just destroy things, right? When things are not going your way. And when things are going your way, you just want to relax, man. You just want to enjoy yourself. Allow all of this shukr stuff, man. Why are you putting on me, man? I'm having a good time here, right? So you want to do things that you want to do, but you know that you're not allowed to do or you shouldn't do, right? That's what sabr. That's where the sabr truly lies. So when it comes to like the battle of Uhud, when it comes to dealing with the kuffar, when it comes to the ni'am of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when it comes to recognition of the elements of your own self and so on and so forth, all of these things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the surah, it requires sabr. It needs that patience, it needs that forbearance, it needs that continuation and that steadfastness. Okay, sabiru. Sabiru has the same words as sabr. So that means it must be also patience, right? What is it translated as? Eh? God, you what? La, that's the rabit, man. It was before that?
Sabiru would be our patient.
Oh, huh?
Endure and then be more patient.
Endure and be more patient. Sabara. Sabara comes to, sabiru comes to the word sabara. This alif has been put in the middle of sabr. Sabara, sabara. What does this alif mean? Anytime you see this in a word, right? That's just been pushed into the middle of a 3-letter word. Whenever you see this alif, this is called alif al-mutawa'a, right? Which basically means, or musharaka, which basically means that this sabr that was originally there was for one person only. That was for me. I'm supposed to do sabr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded me with sabr. Sabiru is when there are a group of people that are all doing this same thing. Meaning that your enemy on the battlefield and elsewhere, they are also doing sabr with you. If you think that you're doing sabr, they are also doing sabr. They also want to defeat you. They also want to bring you down. They also want to kill you in numbers and so on and so forth. They are hell-bent on doing this. Tamam? So if they are also on that vibe, you need to be on that vibe, but even more than that. Sabiru. So endure, be more patient. Be more patient than who? Not yourself, rather the enemy.
The devil within.
And the devil within. Al-Jihad al-Akbar, right? Yeah. رجعنا من الجهاد الأصغر. Some of the Sahaba, it's narrated that they used to say this. رجعنا من الجهاد الأصغر إلى الجهاد الأكبر. When they used to come back from the battlefield, they would say that we've come back from the small jihad to now face the bigger jihad. Right? That's the jihad al-nafs. Yeah? Because out there the enemy's clear, man. But in here, who's the enemy? Right? But rather it's your own self, right? Your own self. Alright. So sabiru. So be more patient than the enemy because they are also out to get you too. Warabitu. Rabitu comes from the word ribat or rabt. Rabt, to tie something, right? To tie. And what is it translated as? Guard your territory. Warabitu. Right? So the people who are in ribat, they are on the edges of the territory of like the kingdom or the sultanate or whatever Muslim lands that we have. Right? They are on the edge and they're guarding the borders. Obviously now warfare is totally different now, so it's not just guarding the borders, it's guarding everything inside, Iron Dome type style and that sort of thing, right? But it's a totally different affair in modern warfare. But anyway, the origin of this though is that they're supposed to be on the borders and they're supposed to be guarding from foreign invaders coming into the land and usurping and taking over and so on and so forth. So, but ribat here also means it has a sort of like a secondary meaning, which is when you have this ribat, when you have this readiness, when you have this like you're protecting your territory, the enemy is aware that you are ready and aware that they can attack at any moment. Right? That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in another verse, وَأَعِدُّوا لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ وَمِن رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ. Right? That be ready for your enemy with all types of strength and with ribat al-khayl. Right, which is like tying the what's it called, the reins of the horses, right? Which basically means that let them see your power, let them see your strength, let them see that you're ready. If you do that, they will be less inclined to want to come and usurp, less inclined to want to come and attack, less inclined to want to come and take, right? So there is great honor and there is great respect in in being prepared and being ready. So يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا. So be patient and be more patient than your enemy and be prepared for them to attack you at any moment. واتقوا الله. And in all of that, fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Don't fall into the haram. Make between you and what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't like a protection. Place that there and you will be successful. لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. So that you may be successful. You do these 4 things. You follow these 4 commandments, inshallah you'll be successful. Successful against your enemy, both external and internal. Yeah? تُفْلِحُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have used any word for success. He could have used فائزون. He could have used another word.
Success.
Huh?
To be successful.
Yeah, to be successful, right? Right, fawz. But he used the word تفلحون. تفلحون comes to the word فلاح. Right?
Success.
أفلح. Okay, what is a falah?
Allah mean farmer.
The farmer. And what does he do?
He is
Yeah, so he plants the crops in the ground, he waters them, he takes care of them, and then he harvests all of the things that that has grown.
الفلاح يفلح الأرض.
يفلح الأرض. يعني
Meaning that he works on the land.
he works on the land, he tills it, he digs it. Huh?
Haris,
Yeah.
working on the ground, and you're connected with Allah 24/7 because to rain, not to cloud, this, that, and the other.
Yes.
So you keep continuous communication with Allah, and Quran is the best communication.
Yes. Okay. That's good, but that wasn't where I was going with it. MashaAllah. Tuflihun. The reason why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses this word for success over any other is because all of these things with regards to sabr, musabara, and ribat, all of that requires an immense amount of effort to exert. You need to toil day and night. It doesn't stop, right? And there are cycles with regards to it. So there are cycles that are, everything's quiet. There's not much to do. You've planted the seed, you're just waiting now, right? That's the ribat. You're waiting, right? And then it comes the growing and the tilling and stuff. That's the, what's it called? The sabr that you have to have. You have to keep on going. It's not ripe yet. Okay, I have to wait. It's not ripe. It's not ready for harvest. And then the time for harvest comes. Ard al-ma'raka. When the fight kicks off. That's when you need, what's it called? Al-musabara. You need to outdo the sabr of your enemy. And that is, all of that requires taqwa, and that is where the falah is. So it's a constant, it's a cycle. And then it stops, and then rinse and repeat. And then it stops, and then rinse and repeat. That is the life of a falah. That is the life of the one who tills the land. And he is the one who is successful, the one who harvests from his crops. And he is the one who is successful, who is patient, outdoes his enemy in patience, is prepared for the attack when it does come, and has fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, mindfulness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all of his affairs as he is going through that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant our brothers and sisters in Gaza alleviation from all their difficulties. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Let's go to the next one. I think we'll stop on this one, inshallah. Yeah? We're in Surah An-Nisa. Allah, at last. In Surah An-Nisa, verse number 19. Tamam? Now, Surah An-Nisa, this is all about huquq and wajibat. Right? Allah Azza wa Jalla in this surah, He is basically going to set out rights and responsibilities for the Muslims. These rights and responsibilities, some of them were present before these verses were revealed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just reinforcing them. And some of them didn't exist in its entirety. And a lot of those rights and responsibilities are given to women, whose rights and responsibilities were non-existent prior to the sending of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? Rather, they were mere commodities that were bought and sold and passed on to other people. Right? That's how it used to work. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu la yahillu lakum an tarithu nisa'a karha. O you who believe, we're in the beginning of Surah An-Nisa, right? And the beginning of Surah An-Nisa is all about the inheritance. It's a bit about marriage, it's a bit about inheritance. And all the way up until verse number 23 is pretty much mainly about inheritance and marriage. Okay, so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O you who believe, the ones who have iman in their hearts, listen up. La yahillu lakum. It is not permissible, it is not lawful for you to inherit women forcefully. Tamam? وَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ. What does he translated تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ mean?
Harshness in treating them.
Yeah, تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ. And do not be harsh, and do not be mean, and do not be unforgiving. لِتَذْهَبُوا بِبَعْضِ مَا آتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ. So that you can acquire some of the things that they have they have given you, or that you have given them, sorry. Acquire some of the things that you have given them. So this is like shiqaq, right? This is when there's beef. إِلَّا أَن يَأْتِينَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ مُبَيِّنَةٍ, except if they were to come with something, with an egregious act, right? They were to commit zina or something like that. وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and live with them in goodness. فَإِن كَرِهْتُمُوهُنَّ, and if you were to hate them, not hate them, but like dislike them, hate's a strong word. فَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُ شَيْئًا, and it may be that you dislike something. وَيَجْعَلَ اللَّهُ فِيهِ خَيْرًا كَثِيرًا, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in it a great amount of good. So what's the backdrop of this ayah? The backdrop of this ayah is that لا يحل لكم أن ترثوا النساء كرها. It's not permissible for you to inherit women out of by force. Now there's two understandings to this verse, right? One is that you're not allowed to inherit women, meaning that when back in the day, in the times of Jahiliyyah before Islam, when a man used to die, his brother or somebody else from his family, a male from his family, would get one of his cloaks or his thobe and chuck it on the woman that has who's become a widow. And that would be symbolic of now saying that she's now mine, right? I've inherited this property of my brother's who's passed away, and now she's now mine. She's passed on to me, and she will now be my wife. That's how it works, right? So women would just pass on. Dude, what a terrible situation. Imagine being a woman at that time, and your husband's about to pass away. Dude, I'll be like, you're going to live forever. I'm not going to these guys. Right, that's one way. The second is that we'll stick with that. We'll stick with that meaning actually. وَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ لِتَذْهَبُوا بِبَعْضِ مَا آتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ, and do not be harsh. لَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ. It's interesting that this word is actually really, really interesting, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is describing harshness and meanness and taking away somebody's rights as adalat. And adalat is your muscles, right? But ta'duluhunna, al-'idl, is actually the muscles that women would use to give birth, right? So the muscles that were used to when the contractions kick off and they have to try and push to give birth, those are the muscles that were used for that are being referred to. وَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ لِتَذْهَبُوا بِبَعْضِ مَا آتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ, and do not be harsh to them and mean to them, in order to لِتَذْهَبُوا بِبَعْضِ مَا آتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ, in order for you to go away or take away from them that which you have given them from the sadaq, the mahr, right? You've given them a dowry, you've given them gifts, you've given them shelter, you've probably given them so many things all these years that you've been living with them, right? And now because perhaps you guys aren't getting along and you guys want to split up, you're going to be extraordinarily mean to them, you're going to be extraordinarily harsh to them, right? And the whole point of using those adalat, the muscles, right, is that the woman in that situation, her muscular sort of like system in that area like develops, and they become extraordinarily developed, right? So that they're going to be able to handle the contractions that are about to come. But when the process of childbirth kicks off, like all of them, they just like relax, all of them, and she has no like control to be able to keep the child in anymore. It just forces itself out. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost as if the husband is now like developed a strength in himself, right? And he's exerting all of this strength on his wife, and she has absolutely no power to be able to stop this onslaught from her husband coming to him. Does that make sense? That's the metaphor that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is using here, right? And it's just like this overbearing, overpowering, no like helplessness that the woman has. She has no ability to get out of that situation whatsoever. Like there's nothing that she can do, absolutely nothing. And this sheer pain, and so this is like the picture that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is trying to paint here. وَلَا تَعْضُلُوهُنَّ لِتَذْهَبُوا, and all of that is for what? To take wealth from her. The wealth that you've given to her, either over the years or as a dowry that you've given her, right? All you want is just that wealth. إِلَّا أَن يَأْتِينَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ مُبَيِّنَةٍ, except if, okay, this is interesting, except if she comes with an egregious act. Either she has an affair, or she acts inappropriately towards you, those sorts of things, right? That are worthy of you separating from her. If she comes up with this sort of stuff, then it's okay for you to do these things. It's almost like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that it's okay for you to treat her this way if she acts egregiously, if she ends up committing zina or doing something that you don't appreciate, right? You don't like. Tamam? Oh, it's got to be great, right? It's not like, oh yeah, she just spoke to me in a bad way and I'm really upset with that. It's like she went out and told all of her friends that, you know, like some secret about you that is really, really sensitive, and that if people know, it's going to be terrible for your reputation, it's going to be terrible for everything, right? Or everything about you. It's going to be detrimental to you, right? She's gone and told everybody. Something like that. So it's like, what on earth are you doing? Or she refuses to come home. Like she goes to stay with her parents, whatever. She refuses to come home. Like, come back. No. Why? What on earth is wrong with you? I don't want to come back here. I don't want to come back and live with you. I don't want to be with you. I don't want this. I don't want that. Well, you have to give me this first. You have to give me that first. It's like, what on earth is going on here? No shoes. Come here. Let me sort you out. So it's almost as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is like, he's like allowing this sort of behavior to happen from a man. Like a man can somehow oppress a woman if she does commit these acts, right? إِلَّا أَن يَأْتِينَ بِفَاحِشَةٍ مُبِينَةٍ. And then she comes up with these acts, then it's okay to do these things, right? It's almost as if he's saying these things. This verse was revealed before the verses of what's it called? وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ النِّسَاءِ, where the verses that speak about the had, the punishment for those who commit zina and act egregiously outside of marriage. Yeah? So those verses were revealed after this verse. So if this happens in your own home, it's almost as if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that, okay, it's understandable that emotions are going to run high. It's understandable that things are going to be difficult. It's understandable that people are going to be upset and they're going to act with each other in a way that's not becoming. Tamam? But at the same time, وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Allah. عَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. And live with them with ma'roof. Ma'roof comes from the word urf. Urf. Yes. And urf comes from the origin of arafa. And arafa comes from, or also ma'rifa comes from the word arafa as well. Right? And Mount Arafa. Right? Ta'rif. You get to know. So arafa means to know, to come to know, to acquire knowledge and understanding. Right? Ma'rifa is insight, enlightenment, understanding. Right? The mountain of Arafah is when you get to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gets to know His servants that have come in servitude to Him, etc. etc. So there's knowledge behind that as well, right? Arafah, the same words also, or the same letters also comprise the word rif'a and irtifa', which is to be in a high place, right? So وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. عَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ meaning live with them from what you know from their goodness. It's not all bad. It's not all bad. And it can't be all bad because no human being is wholly evil, right? So live with them with what you know from their goodness, right? And what you know from what they have in terms of their good qualities, those qualities that give them honor, those qualities that give them a high status. وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He didn't say وَعَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَوَدَّةِ, right? Or عَاشِرُهُنَّ بِالْمَحَبَّةِ, meaning that the husband and wife couple there, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't say that live with them with love and affection, live with them with mercy and compassion, right? Even though He says in other ayahs, وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ مَوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً. You have this innate, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put this innate compassion and mercy between husband and wife is there, right? وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُمْ Yes, هُنَّ لِبَاسٌ لَكُمْ وَأَنْتُمْ لِبَاسٌ لَهُنَّ, and all these other like metaphoric phrases that He's brought in the Quran about husband and wife. وَإِن تَعْفُوا وَتَصْفَحُوا وَتَغْفِرُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. So if there's problems in the marriage, if you are forgiving and forbearing and merciful towards each other, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be merciful towards you. All these different meanings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings, right? But here when He says live with one another, He doesn't say live with one another with these meanings. He says live with one another with ma'roof, which shows that the relationship between husband and wife doesn't always necessarily have to be based on love and affection. You don't do things all the time because you love them, right? You don't do things with your wife because you love her all the time. Sorry, let me rephrase that. You don't do things for your wife all the time because you love her. Sometimes you do those things because that's your responsibility to do, because that's what you're supposed to do, because you as a man, that's what you want to do. And vice versa for the woman. Sometimes she'll do things not because she loves her husband. She's not doing that out of love and compassion for her husband. She's doing it out of duty and respect, right? And self-respect as well. This is what I should be doing as a wife. This is what I should be doing as a woman. You know what I'm saying? That's how she does it, right? So so there's more to our relationships than just a feeling, an emotion, and this is what in the Western world we've kind of lost. As soon as those feelings and emotions, either of eroticism, or lust, or feelings of like connection and as soon as that goes out the window, they're just like, yeah, why am I in this relationship? I don't know why I'm here in this relationship. I need to just find someone new. I need to move on. And she's like 40, or he's like 60. It's like, what options do you have, man? What options do you have, like, after this? Use goods now, like, it's khalas, man, like, you've got all these kids as well. Like, who's gonna want to be like with someone like that, right? And okay, khalas, I understand it if it's like, okay, I'm not getting on with my wife, I need to split up with her, and I need to find someone new. Okay, I understand, no problem, right? But this is you like, yeah, I don't really like this anymore, and I'm not feeling it anymore. So based on that feeling and emotion, ya Allah, khalas, I'm gonna go. That's not Quranic, right? That's not what the Prophet came with at all. So our relationships aren't just based on love and affection. Whilst that is a byproduct, right, over time, you see the respect and you see that mutual, like, sort of like the service that you have for one another, the fact that you guys are there for one another, you sacrifice so much for each other, and over time that's going to develop into something that is greater than anything else, right? But if those concepts, the ma'roof isn't there in the first place, then mahabba is never ever going to be there, even if it is fleeting, even if it is there at the beginning because of lust and because of the physical connection that you might have. But if there's no ma'roof there, if there's none of that respect and servitude for each other, if that's not there, then the love is not going to last. And the love will go away, she'll get fat, you'll get old, with grey hair, and get wrinkly and nasty, and probably get a pot belly. Right? And you're not gonna be attractive anymore. So that love is just gonna go way out the window. So, but if that sacrifice and service is there, then it's a different story entirely. فَإِن كَرِهْتُمُوهُنَّ, and if you despise something from them, and likewise if she despises something from you, right? If you despise something from them, فَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا, then it may be that you despise something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in it a great amount of good. You don't know where the barakah is, right? Now the Prophet used to speak about this with regards to like food, right? Like iltamisu, what's it called? أكرموا الطعام. Like be gracious towards the food that you're eating, right? وَالْتَمِسُوا فِيهِ الْبَرَكَةِ. Like at the end, when all the food is done and dusted, and there's just little bits of rice here, little bits of rice there, a little bit of meat here on the side or whatever, and everyone's just like, nah, I'm done. Right, I'll eat my full, I'll eat my share. Somebody else like deal with like cleaning the plate. The Prophet would say, no, all of you guys like try and find the barakah in that, right? So similarly, there is barakah in our lives in all things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, right? In all of the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, not just food. It's in the relationships that we have with one another, it's in our friendships, it's in our family circles, it's in our relationships with our wives and our children. We need to find that barakah there, right? Because we may despise something, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put that barakah in that thing that we may not like. Does that make sense? Just like we don't like to be the one who finishes the food like he's like some poor beggar that he's never had food in his life and he's like, I need to eat all of this. That's kind of like what you're afraid of looking like, right? It's like, dude, I don't want to be that guy. You be that guy. But it's like, don't be afraid of these things. Don't be afraid to be gracious towards the one who knows all of your vulnerabilities. Don't be afraid to show your love and affection towards someone who, if you show that love and affection to today, tomorrow she could turn around and just wipe the floor with you with it and humiliate you with it. Don't be afraid to do that, right? Because it may be in doing that, that's where all the khair is. Do you know what I'm saying? Because some people can have this tahaffud, innit? You know, when they're in relationships, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that for my wife. I'm not going to like, she walks into the door or whatever, right? And like, you don't want to get up off the sofa and like give her a hug or whatever. Welcome her into the home. The queen has returned to her castle, right? You don't want to do that. You're like, hey, where have you been? What took you so long to get home, right? You don't want to be that guy. You want to be the opposite, innit? You want to come home and she's got to be there all dressed up for you and stuff like that. You just want to chill, be on the PlayStation or be on your computer or whatever. Do whatever you're doing, right? You don't want to be that guy. But in that is a great barakah. Yallah, khalas, I think we'll stop there, inshallah ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put love and affection in all of our relationships. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to live in ma'roof with our spouses. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to be those who have yeah.
About forcing the women to inherit them, also refer to the men discouraging the women from getting married when they have wealth.
Yes.
And wait for them to die.
Yeah.
The husband will get some of it.
Yeah. And taking their inheritance as well. So they would be owed something and they'll just take it for themselves. Yeah, that's a good point, man.